So, so I want to talk today about spirituality, or lack of spirituality, should I say. Chazal tell us that, we know from the Tanakh and from the words of Chazal that people used to go to what is so-called the deserts to meditate or to look for God or whatever that is. The word spirituality didn't exist back then. I think people were a little bit more spiritual, even though they weren't. But it was easier to be spiritual back then than it is today. And it's not because that everything in the past was better. Usually we were reminiscing on the past. Oh, things were so wonderful at the time. In the 50s it was so great. It was wonderful. It was so great. How about the living without an AC like they did in the 50s? Do you want to live without an AC? Oh no. So where is it better? But in terms of spirituality, it was easier there than it is today. And the reason is very, very simple. And don't think that I'm not guilty of that. I'll be the first one to admit that I'm guilty of that as well. When all modern religion, like whether it's Judaism, Christianity, Islam, even a certain thing, Buddhism to a certain extent and so on, those religion is supposed to be a way of a spiritual life where you connect to a higher being, to God, and so on and so forth. But when you haven't committed yourself fully to that path, and I know what I'm saying might be a little controversial, people are going to say, oh, you're primitive and so on. What I feel needs to be said would be said, sometimes. When we have one foot in this world and one foot in the other world, it's very difficult to become spiritual. It would seem a little bit of a controversial or inaccurate. It's not that, for example, Judaism should not have an understanding of what is happening in the world, but rather this device, any other device that you have, creates a tremendous obstacle in becoming spiritual. Now, becoming spiritual does not mean, for example, using drugs. The usage of drugs, alcohol, sex, and on, are all aspects in which we want them to do the work for us, instead of realizing that we need to do the work for ourselves. So we think that if we smoke drugs, that's going to give me into this cool groove. I'll be more calmed down. I will be relaxed, right? If I'll drink alcohol, right? I need to have a little drink to take the edge off, right? If I'm talking about Marvin Gaye, sexual healing, I'll have sex, I'll be relaxed, it'll heal me. No, these are all mistakes. In order to become spiritual, first of all, you need to relax. First of all, the level of anxiety in which we live in, and even if to the most person you look at himself as a really chilled out person, you see that it's, to a certain extent, he's really tense. He's really tense. And we're not helping it. We're not helping it. And that has an effect on our spirituality. The schedule that we decide, and I'm emphasizing, decided that we're going to live by. The lifestyle in which we decided we have to live by. There's ongoing race after, or chase after what everybody else is doing. It will harm your spirituality. I mean, no question asked about it. We're very, very tense people, and we don't understand the work that needs to be done. In martial arts, they say, when your temper rising, lower your fist. And when your fists are rising, lower your temper. That's why on a high level of doing martial arts, the people are really calm. It becomes a spiritual work, not a physical work. At the beginning of martial arts, it's all about hard hitting, you know. But eventually you come to realize it's a way to help you realize that, because you need to concentrate. You're going to be able to go only this way. In religious life that we live, you know, it's impossible to become spiritual. Or near impossible to become spiritual. The ongoing bombardment of noises that we are exposed to. That's why my favorite time is really early in the morning. Like a little bit before sunrise. It's the best time of the day. Shabbat, everybody likes to sleep, you know, because they like to go to the 9 o'clock minyan. What a shame! What is a 9 o'clock minyan? Right? Don't hide. 9 o'clock minyan. It's terrible. Get up in the morning. Sit down. Go outside. You know, I'm sure most people have a backyard or a patio or a balcony or even if you don't have that, just open the window of your living room. Just open the window. It's not so hot. You can let some fresh air in. Open the window and don't do anything. And try to reflect on your life. It never happens to us. Never. We go on and you go outside and the overwhelming sense of noises and lights, ambulances flashing, cars, police cars flashing, honking the thing. I don't understand why would anybody like to go to Times Square. I feel not only as a fish out of the water in Times Square, I feel like a fish thrown into the inferno. It's like, I don't understand that. That's why you don't have so many spiritual people in New York, regardless of how new age they are and so on and so forth. It's impossible. It is absolutely impossible. You don't have time to contemplate and to reflect and to understand it. You don't have also another thing that causes you to become less spiritual or not to become spiritual, because you're not spiritual to begin with, is you don't have somebody to point out the areas of mistake. Somebody to tell you the truth, not to hurt you, but to guide you. You're not willing to accept that because you are so tense that you think if anybody tells you anything, right away it's a direct attack on you. As a result of that, you gotta defend and attack and just relax. Nobody's trying to hurt you. So just trying to explain to you. You don't have a master to tell you, listen, you're doing something wrong, and so on. We created in Judaism, theoretically speaking, a zone that should be like that. And that's, first of all, shuls and bet medrash, yeshivot, bet medrash. However, even in shuls, our shuls are a sanctuary for spirituality. Do we refer to it as a sanctuary of that? Do we give ourselves the 7 minutes a day to simply pray 3 times, 5 minutes a day, to simply reflect without worrying about, oh man, I gotta go, this. Just come into shul and pray your Shmona Esrei like it should be, like by letting go, by reflecting, but not paying attention to the guy snorting next to you, or the other guy's telephone beeping, and the other guy sneezing next to you. You hear the noises, but you let them go. You're aware of them, but you don't let them bother you. You just pray. And at a certain point, you don't hear anything anymore. And we don't have that. We carry our telephone with us all the time because we are afraid. We are afraid of missing something. We are afraid of I don't know what. And as a result of that, we become very tense. When you're afraid, you're tense. It constricts you. It restricts you. And as such, you cannot grow. In order to become spiritual, it all has to be loose. You have to be completely detached from that. That lack of detachment, the understanding of what things are, that we are all, maybe we are all energy, different types of energy forms, okay? Or not to be attached for any, that's the level that you'll be able to let go, and as they say, let God. We work our lives through ultimate fears. We are afraid of everything, and we cannot become spiritual. The only thing you should attach yourself to is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The only thing. If Chaz v'Shalom, a person has a wife that does not want to go into the spiritual path. She doesn't. She wants to go party and dancing, and she wants to wear leather skirts and whatever it is, right? So what is he going to do? Is he afraid? Is he going to leave her, or is he not going to leave her? I'm raising questions that maybe some people will feel uncomfortable answering. They would say, oh no, there are things that are sacred, like family and children and wives and husbands, but the only thing sacred is God. All those things are sacred because you brought God into the equation. Because by themselves, if you don't have God in the equation of marriage, what's the point of getting married? It's boring. Imagine you have to wear the same suit for 40 years. Same pants, not even the different pants, but the same style. The same pants. And get tired of it. But when you introduce HaKadosh Baruch Hu into that, so it takes a different level. When you take the institution of marriage into, you bring it into the spiritual realm, not that into it, that into the spiritual realm, it becomes a whole spiritual experience. But we don't have that. We don't go outside enough to nature. Not to hiking, not to finish the whole Appalachian Trail. We're not even talking about that, which is a monumentous thing to do, because when people do those trails, the Long Trail or the Appalachian Trail or some trails in California, it means that they have the courage to leave everything behind and to carry themselves on the back for 2,000 some more miles. We are all never going to, most of us, we're never going to be able to do so because we are afraid of jobs and families and so on. But how about you? How about you? When are you going to be able to give something? You don't have anything to give from yourself. What do you have to give from yourself? A way of life? What kind of a way of life we live in? What is this for you to give to your family? That you so make them sacred. The only thing you're going to give them is money. And this is a horrible thing. So our sanctuaries are Batei Midrashot, Yeshivot, and shuls. That's the only thing, the only chance that we have to hold on to a segment, a small portion of our spirituality, and those places need to be sacred. Therefore, in shuls should not be politics. Shul should not be a political venue. And when a shul becomes a celebration, it's a production. And that's why shul should not be a segment of breaking people apart or dividing, because that's the opposite of spirituality. And leaders of communities should understand that. And if you are a dividing factor within any community, you don't belong in a shul, or you don't belong running a shul. You become a politician. No, don't become a rabbi. A rabbi should put everybody together. And he should be able to stand tall and say, I am the rabbi and this is how things are going to, please don't have politics here. You were chosen to be the leader. You weren't chosen to be a collector of funds. And we have to remember that. Bet Medrash, when you're coming to learn, that's your refuge. The world does not exist for you. You owe it to yourselves. You don't understand what it is that you're doing. And you're going to walk around like zombies, like addicts, because somewhere inside of you, that thing that's called neshama needs that fuel, needs that spirituality. And maybe we should, maybe we should loosen up a little bit on our academic thrills. Maybe we should be a little bit less academic and more spiritual and teach the spiritual writings. Maybe. Because with this great emphasis on academia, on analytic analysis, sometimes we just miss the whole entire point. So I'm going to tell you this because there's not a lot of time in life before those bad habits become your nature. And it's never too late, but it becomes very difficult. It's much easier to do so when you're young. Don't be afraid. Fear will restrict you. Therefore, you need to create, understand that. You need to create it. You need to train yourself. Go out to nature. Go out to nature. Even if all you could afford, because you don't have a car, you don't have transit, go in the park. Go to the park, sit in the park. Go to nature. Go out. After you understand how nature is, you bring it back and you say to your people in the shul, this is how it should be. You see, in nature, when you look at nature, everything is calm. You look at the trees, right? You look at the tree. The tree is calm. It's calm. Comes a wind, ruffles it a little bit, but it's calm. You don't see a stressed tree. You don't see a stressed bird. They're calm, they're flying, they're doing what they're doing. We are the ones who don't know what we're doing. We are the ones who stress. Through the stress, we kill our harmony, our internal harmony. And when there's no harmony, there's no love. When there's no love, there's no God. I'm sorry. But that's something that you all have to do if you want to make it into the spiritual world. All the learning of Kabbalah would not help you if you don't understand what is that I just told you. That's not going to make you more spiritual. So it's there. Take it if you want, practice it, and see what it is. If not, just keep on living your life like anybody else, pretending. Have a great day.